Welcome to Voices of Fear. Tonight, we step into the shadows of a story that has haunted Japan for decades. A story whispered about in hushed tones. A story tied to an abandoned house where the presence of a grieving mother refused to let go. But before we begin, a warning. Viewer discretion is advised. This story is not for the faint of heart. Tell me, where in the world are you watching from tonight? Share your city, share your country, and join this global circle of fear. And if you're new here, subscribe now to Voices of Fear, so you never miss the next chilling story waiting in the dark. Because what you're about to hear is more than just a ghost story. It's a reminder that some loves never die. Japan is a land where tradition and the supernatural intertwine. Shinto and Buddhist beliefs hold that spirits linger when attachments are too strong, when rituals of farewell are incomplete, or when emotions burn brighter than reason. Among these spirits are the yūrei, restless ghosts tied to powerful emotions, anger, sorrow, revenge, and grief. In rural towns across Japan, abandoned houses become more than just empty shells. Locals whisper about them, avoid them, and sometimes even mark them with charms to ward off evil. But there is one house standing in the outskirts of a quiet prefecture that has been left untouched for decades. The paint is peeling, the roof sagging, yet neighbors still cross the street rather than pass its gates. They say it belonged to a mother who could not let go of her child, and in her refusal, she created something neither alive nor truly dead. It began in the late 1970s. The house belonged to a small family, a father, a mother, and their only child, a little girl named Aiko. The neighbors remember laughter in the garden, the child chasing butterflies, her mother's voice calling her in for supper. But that laughter ended abruptly. Aiko fell ill, struck by a sudden fever that no medicine could break. Within days, she was gone. The father, devastated, left the town entirely. The mother remained. She locked the house, drew the curtains, and lived alone with her grief. But neighbors began to notice strange things. At night, they would hear soft lullabies drifting from the second floor, even though the girl was gone. When asked, the mother would only say, "She's still here. She hasn't left me." Years passed. The house fell deeper into decay. The mother aged, her health deteriorating, but she refused to leave. Then, one autumn, the town noticed something chilling. The mother stopped appearing in the markets. When police entered the house, they found her lifeless body sitting upright in a chair in Aiko's old room. Her hands clutched a child's doll, and her gaze was fixed toward the small bed. But here's where the story twists. Neighbors swore that long after her death, they could still hear that same lullaby at night. The authorities boarded up the house, yet those who dared to enter have their own testimonies. One former classmate of Aiko's, now grown, confessed that she returned to the house out of curiosity. She described the air as unbearably heavy, with the smell of damp tatami mats and something faintly sweet, like rotting fruit. She claimed that as she entered Aiko's old room, the door slammed shut behind her. Then she heard it. A whisper, soft, like a mother comforting a child. "It's okay. Mama's here." The woman fled, but not before glimpsing the outline of two figures near the window, one tall, hunched, and one small, seated on the bed. Others who trespassed described toys moving on their own, soft footsteps following them up the stairs, and in some cases, scratches on their arms that appeared only after leaving the house. The most terrifying account came from two university students filming an exploration video in the 1990s. Their footage was never released publicly, but a surviving transcript of the police report suggests what they saw. The video begins normally. Dark hallways, cobwebs, broken furniture. Then, as they enter the upstairs room, the camera jolts violently. One student screams, "Who's there?" The last audible sound before the tape cuts off is a woman's voice humming. Only one student made it out of the house alive. The other, his body was discovered days later in the garden, eyes wide open, hands curled as if reaching for something unseen. So what happened in that abandoned house in Japan? Folklorists argue that the mother's grief created a tether strong enough to anchor her spirit and possibly her daughter's. In Japanese belief, unfulfilled duty or overwhelming sorrow can bind souls to places long after death. Some psychologists suggest mass hysteria, that visitors to the house were so influenced by its reputation, their minds created the illusions. But others point out something far more chilling. Nearly every witness described hearing the same lullaby, identical words, identical melody, even decades apart. Whether spirit or suggestion, one thing is certain: the mother's refusal to let go ensured that no one else who entered could truly leave unchanged. What do you think really happened inside that abandoned house? Was it grief echoing through time, or something darker, something bound to the living world through love that became obsession? Tell us your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to share where you're watching from. Your stories fuel this channel. If you made it this far, thank you for walking with us into the shadows. Subscribe to Voices of Fear and join us again next week as we uncover another terrifying story that blurs the line between the living and the dead. Until next time, stay safe, and remember, sometimes it's not the living you should fear, but the ones who refuse to let go.